Hello, this is Will the Dreamer coming to you for the 12th episode of my podcast. We have the great fortune of uh, the topic on Scott Mige't, Sergeant Scott Mige't, his growing up in the local area and how he engaged with the Air Force, his deployment to the Iraqi Freedom Operation, and I'll also touch on how the enemy combatants use different strategy against U.S. Air Force that Sergeant Mige't is involved in. And also, at the very last point, the transition of Sergeant Scott Mige't back to this community. So it's a great pleasure. Let me get started. He grew up in Jackson, and his first few jobs were with P&G, Walmart, and he was a fork lifter. Now that's very important. Remember that affects the later part of his life. His father was involved with the Air Force. His mother's side has relatives with the Air Force. So eventually he joined the Air Force. So let's get into the second part. This is 2003. He joined the Air Force, and there was Operation Iraqi Freedom. This is U.S. and the Allies with war against Iraq. And the Sergeant Scott Mige't has 6 deployments: 2004, 2005, 2006, 2008, 2009, and 2011. He has a total of 6 deployments. I'm not familiar with the deployment, but basically, in short, each time you're sent over, you go for 6 to 9 months or so, and you are overseas, do your job, and when you come back, sometimes you go for a month or two of training in the camp, and you are back home for 6 months or less. So let me go into his assignment, his duties in Iraq, and the lifestyles there. Sergeant Mige't was there. The Air Force Base is combined next to the Army base. And because, remember, his experience was forklifting, he was assigned the transportation. So they transport each equipment and firearms to different areas. Each day you get an assignment for a few minutes, then out you go. Now those are the areas the airplane and other transportation mode cannot reach very easily, so you go by land. Now, Sergeant Mige't is responsible for his people, and at every corner he has to scout the area to make sure that there are no snipers, no ambush, and certainly a dangerous situation. Now, in the old days, you don't have really GPS or internet. You have a good old-fashioned map, and it's in Arabic. So that's what you get, and he has to do transportation every day through to the designated areas. At one point, he was a gunner. Also, towards the later years, that he was based out of Kuwait when our Navy get shipment of equipment and firearms, that he took it and shipped them to Iraq. Now let's talk about life on the Air Force Base. Food is very basic at the beginning. Now, one thing is that all the servicemen in a few weeks can make a call 15 minutes to back home. The line is very long, and 15 minutes you can call your wife, you can call your kids, or you can call your mom or sister, all within 15 minutes. Now, what happened to the internet? In the early days, internet is not that readily available, and infrastructure of internet is really poor in Iraq. You have to go a long distance before you get internet, not very reliable, so it's really not practical. Now, also, nowadays that in different U.S. bases, the internet becomes readily available. So let me now turn to another part about the enemy combatants and their strategy. Now, when Sergeant Mige't was at the base, that the U.S. takes civilians who were injured with fire burns, during the conflict, and treat the Iraqi civilians. There are Iraqi parents who purposely burn their kids, send it to the U.S. Air Force base to be treated. And after they are treated, the kids stay there for recovery and scout out the area to know when the change of shifts is, where the most concentration of our troops and where. And then direct attack at that time to that area. A second part is that when all the convoy is done and going back to the base, there may be security checks. It takes 20, 30 minutes. When all the trucks are backed up outside, some of the Iraqi kids sell candies and chewing gum and or anything else like that. However, once they become very familiar with the U.S. troops, some of the kids will plant bombs underneath the truck. That's the sad reality of war. Sergeant Mige't mentioned something that he remembered very clearly, that there's an Iraqi man that's a very good worker that changes all the tires for the Air Force Base, for the trucks. And one day he didn't show up. He was killed by the Taliban. Remember, when the original Iraqi forces were defeated, there were guerrilla groups like Taliban, Al-Qaeda, causing trouble and making attacks on the troops. Now, the last thing I want to mention is that other veterans has told me about the desert spider that's gigantic. So I did some research and talked with Sergeant Mige't. Actually, it's called camel spider, and it's about 6 inches long in the body. Now, so it's not that big, but any spider that big, I'm going the other way. But remember, they have legs that spread out, so it can look quite big, and oftentimes people take the camera at special angle to make sure that it looks really much bigger than that. They're not poisonous. They go to the underbelly of the camel and suck out the nutrients. Let's get back to Sergeant Mige't. After 2011 till 2023, he was in the United States, he was in Kansas, and then at the end he was at the Scott Air Force Base. So he retired in 2023, and his commander gave a speech during his retirement. He retired as Master Sergeant Scott Mige't. And a few really important things. Number one is that during his watch and his patrol and his assignment to carry all the equipment and everything with the truck, he has not lost a single soldier. That's definitely not true for other groups. There were injuries and there were casualties. So great credit to Sergeant Mige't. He's meticulous, stern, but very fair. Also, another thing is very important. He made very good use of his time. He took online courses in the later years before he retired and got a bachelor's degree in psychology. He also got a master's degree in sports management. So after 2003, he came back to this Cape Jackson area. Currently, he's the head golf coach for Saxony Lutheran School, and also he set a shop called Teed Off Golf and Performance. It's 121 Main Street. It's at the Jackson Square area. It's a beautiful shop. I'll send a picture along with that. The veterans serve us and make all the sacrifice. Not only that in dangerous situation, their family make the sacrifice not being able to see them. So it's our chance to support them, and to please visit his shop, and I hope you have learned something about his life, his dedication. All hats off to Master Sergeant Mige't. Welcome back to this community. So if you like it, please subscribe below. Until I see you again. But keep on dreaming. Bye.